But yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. Excited to be running the webinar on deadline alerts and notifications. This is a feature that is very important in the Concord platform and one that I get a lot of questions about, so wanted to cover that for today. As always, if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A. If you don't know where those are, I would take a second right now and just figure that out. So we've got the chat feature there, and there's also a Q&A feature. I don't really know why they're separate, but they are, and you can put questions in both places. So feel free to do that if you would like. Um, Awesome. I'm just looking at how many people are here. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and just get started. I think we are at time. So today we're going to specifically talk about the different types of notifications and deadline alerts in Concord, how those get set up, what those look like when they get sent out to you, how to keep track of them. Honestly, it shouldn't take the full time. So if you do have specific questions about that or other things, just let me know. I would assume we probably won't take the full 30 minutes today, and that's totally fine, but just letting you know. So let's go ahead and jump in. As always, quick introduction. I am Zach Kinsey, the head of sales here at Concord. I'm currently a little bit sick, so I don't have my full voice, so I apologize for that. I will try to speak up. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. We also have our support email here as well. So yeah, if you have any questions about this, about your account, training needs, anything like that, feel free to reach out. And I'm happy to help, or someone on our team will be happy to help. So just let us know. Great, let's go ahead and jump into Concord here, and we will start talking through the notifications. Let me get back into Horizon. I was doing a training yesterday on the old system, so let's go ahead and jump into Horizon here. But this whole piece of the tool is actually going to be the same whether you're in Classic or Horizon because it's going to be in the document view, which is the same either way. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into my documents here in Concord, and we're going to go to a document that has already been signed, and I'm going to talk through how this all works in the system. I'll just jump right here. So in Concord, whether you're signing a contract through Concord or uploading one that has already been signed, first of all, if you have the AI turned on, which at this point most of our customers do, the AI should automatically pick up the details for you that we're going to be talking about today, and that is our life cycle details. So when you set up your life cycle details in Concord, the system will automatically create the notification based on the information that's in the life cycle details, and that's going to be seen here in the system. So a couple other things to point out, as always with the AI, it's going to extract things like agreement category, doc type, parties, description, but then you've got that life cycle here. So you'll notice there's a few things happening with this specific contract, which we'll talk more about here in just a second. But let's go ahead and click into edit this information, and that will show us all the information about this specific agreement's life cycle dates. So first of all, we have the signing date. That's when the contract was signed. We also have an effective date, which could be different from the signature date. Maybe you sign it today, but you don't want to make it effective until the first of next month. That's why we have a difference here. We also have a duration of the contract, and you do have a number of different options. A lot of contracts obviously could have different durations. One might be an evergreen contract, so it's got basically a permanent duration. Maybe you don't know the duration of it. Maybe there's no dates in the contract at all, and you just don't really know what that looks like, so you can select that. But if it does have an actual timeline, if it has an actual date, I can do until a specific date or a period of time. So 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it might be. So a couple different ways to put that in. This one has a specific end date on it, which in this case is already passed, which is fine. And then down below, you've got your renewal information. And this is something that I think a lot of people overlook in Concord. Obviously, renewals are super important. A lot of contracts, especially vendor agreements, you've got your software agreements, you've got your internet agreements, whatever it might be, those a lot of them probably have renewal provisions in them, and so this is gonna try to pick that up and enter it here. So there's a couple different ways you can set up renewals. You can do obviously no renewal. You can do when the contract ends, and you can also do on specific dates. And what that renewal actually looks like could be a period of time until a specific date or permanently. So like a permanent renewal. And then down below we have tacit or after agreement. Tacit basically means, for those that don't know, basically means like it's kind of optional. So you'll just kind of determine if you want to do it or not. And then we have unlimited occurrences and limited occurrences as well. So these are all things that the AI should pick up for you based on what's written in the contract. But if you need to come in here and make adjustments, you can. And that's one thing to point out. Any of these data fields, even after the AI extracts, you can come in and override them anytime you want to. So if you want to change it, or maybe something with the contract changes, it's not written in the contract, and so you need to update it, you can update it anytime you need to, no problem. So that's our renewal information. So we have signature, effective, duration, renewal, and then last of all, early termination or termination notice deadline. So a lot of contracts will say, hey, you've got to give us 60 days notice before the contract ends. And so you're going to need to keep track of that here in the system as well. That is a field the AI will look for. But like I said, maybe you need to come in and manually update it. This is where that happens. So put that in there. And I'll go ahead and just cancel this here in the system. So a couple things to point out that you're seeing here, because these will only show up when the contract is past its end date. First of all, we have the auto accept future renewals. So that way it's not going to pop up every time and say like, hey, do you want to renew this contract? Yes, no. You'll see this renewed option here. That means that the contract, system doesn't know if this contract has been renewed or not. So you can choose to auto accept them. The other option is if it says it is past this document's end date, do I set it as renewed or do I set it as terminated? So do I want to renew the contract? That's one option. Or do I want to actually tell the system, hey, this contract is terminated. It's no longer an active contract. So I have both options here. If I set it as renewed, I'm going to put in my renewal information here so that when, this started, when it ended, the duration, we can say how long it's going to be renewed for, if there is still a termination notice, and then we can also do an automatic renewal. So if you've never seen that before in Concord, when you're going to renew a document, this is the options that you have. These are the options here. And then you also have, for terminated, you would be able to tell the system when exactly it was terminated, and it can, of course, backdate that and set that up here. So for our life cycle, those are the different options that we have for setting up the life cycle details, and then that's also going to be what triggers the notifications to be sent out. I think I might have seen a question. It says, should AI read where it says shall be automatically renewed and set it to auto renewal? I mean, it should do that. Sometimes it's going to miss that. And, if that's something that you catch, definitely just update it there. But it's definitely something that, the AI should catch. So you could submit that as a ticket to our team. And, any feedback you have on that type of stuff, I would always recommend submitting it because then the team will just help make the system better. So definitely submit that over to the team and to just support at if you have some time. So that's the life cycle details there. That's how you set them up in the system. There is one other, and we'll talk about what that actually looks like and what we do with those things here in just a second. But we have life cycle. And then the other one that I think a lot of people overlook is the ability to add additional deadlines to a contract. So I can come in here and do a custom term. And the number one way that people use this and the way that I recommend using it is like a certificate of insurance deadline. Or maybe you have a deadline for when a payment's due or a project is due or things like that. You can actually add as many deadlines to a contract in Concord as you would like. And those are going to get added to those weekly emails as well, which is kind of nice. So here I've got a certificate of insurance deadline. I've seen a lot of people where they'll put in like a snippet about the certificate of insurance. They'll put that in as a description, and then they can also actually attach the certificate here as an attachment to the contract record itself. So we're going to do COI deadline, put the description in. I'm going to put in an actual date. So this certificate of insurance is actually going to expire October 15th. And so it's typically the reason you would do this is your certificates have different end dates than the contract itself. And so that's why it's important to be able to track them in the system. If you're someone, in the construction industry, you're someone that's managing properties. I mean, a lot of these different businesses have these certificates of insurance that they need to keep track of. And so this is where that could happen. And then last of all, you can also put a financial amount in if you wanted to. Obviously, with a certificate of insurance, there's not usually something specifically, but this is where maybe you have a payment due that you want to keep track of. You could put that in, and I'll show you that use case here in just a second too. So for now, I've just added the certificate of insurance. It's got a deadline here, and so that's going to get added to that the deadline email that gets sent out from the system when that's coming due. Now let's say that we do want to track a payment. So to do that, I'll come in here and do custom term. I'm going to say quarterly payment here in this case. For this contract, I'm going to add a duration. So we're going to do a recurring event. We're going to say that's going to happen every 3 months from the start of the contract to the end of the contract. I'm going to put in my financial amount now. I'm actually paying this out. You could also be collecting it, but I'm going to go ahead and pay it in this case. So is it accounts receivable or accounts payable? I'm going to do an amount. So this is going to be $5,000 every quarter. This will be before tax or all taxes included. And then I'm going to add the term in. So now I'm tracking my certificate of insurance. I'm also tracking the actual quarterly payment for this contract when that, so now I'm going to be notified when that is coming due. In this case, like I'm paying it, so I need to make a payment there. But you could also keep track of when people are supposed to pay you. So we do have both options there in the system. So this contract now has 3 deadlines. We have the life cycle deadline, the certificate of insurance, and the quarterly payment as well. And you can add as many deadlines to a single contract as you would like. Okay, so that's all there. Now let's talk about what we do with the actual deadline. So a couple different things happen. First of all, we have that weekly email that goes out from the system. It looks just like this. So every Monday, you're going to get an email that looks similar to this, and it'll show you all the upcoming deadlines in one place. It will break it down by type of deadline. So we have termination notice deadlines, we have renewal dates, and there are a couple other things that could show up here as well, depending on what kind of deadlines you have on your contracts. But like, hey, this is when your contracts are renewing, or this is when you need to give termination notices for these contracts because they had those termination notices required. So you can click on this link and that'll take you into the actual report in Concord, which I'll show you in just a second. But the first thing is once the deadlines are set up in Concord, they'll start showing up on that email that gets sent out from the system. And the way that we determine when they get sent out is actually a setting here in the tool. Let me just go into the setting really quickly. It's in my settings here and preferences. So I'm just going to click settings and then go notifications. And at the very top, you have the receive weekly deadline reminders by email. And then you have how far out you want them to start. So this says include deadlines that are set to occur within the next 120 days. Of course, I could move that down if I wanted to. A lot of our customers will do like 90 days before, 60 days before. But if you want a lot of time, you can set it out as far as you would like. So what that means is that's going to start adding it to that weekly email within that window. So within 90 days of that thing happening, whether it's a termination notice or the contract ending or whatever it might be, it'll start showing up on that weekly email. So if you have this turned on, which it's on by default in Concord, if you have this turned on, you have this set, then you're going to get those weekly notification emails. One thing that I always show, I get a lot of questions about like, hey, how do we turn those emails off because people complain about them? You can always just come in and have people turn it off right there. So go to notifications and then they can just turn it off. That way they won't get that email on a weekly cadence. So that's that. So we've talked about how the deadlines get set up in the system. We've talked about additional deadline alerts. We've talked about the actual email that goes out, and then also how to turn off and on the notifications and how to adjust them. Now, the last thing here is going to be the actual deadline report in Concord. So you have a list of all the upcoming deadlines here in the system. I can see the document, different fields here. There's not a lot of options to add things here, but there are a few. And you can also filter this list. But basically right now, it's just showing me everything happening this month. So this is just all of April. If I click into my calendar view, I can also see a calendar view of all my deadlines here. And of course, one thing that's really nice about this is you can sync this with your own personal calendar. We do have that calendar sync now available. So if you want to have these deadlines show up on your Google Calendar, Outlook, whatever it might be, you can simply sync them and then have those show up over there in the system. So that is what that looks like. And yeah, I mean, I think one of the honestly most popular features in Concord are the deadline notifications and deadline tracking. It's a really important part of what we do. So that is how that all works in the system. I'm trying to think. Do you have any questions? Let me know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I haven't covered yet. I think that's pretty much everything that I was thinking of. But any other questions, put them in. So the cool thing now too, with AI, I've been at Concord over 10 years now. It used to be a very manual process. And now the fact that you could upload all of your documents, the AI pulls out all the details, sets up all the deadlines for you. I mean, that's a huge improvement from, what we had previously. And it should make everybody's job a little bit easier with tracking those deadlines for sure. Great. Well, if there are no other questions, I feel like we can go ahead and end now for today. But if you do have a question, put it in. I'm tracking those. Um, Otherwise, everyone have a great Wednesday here, and just reach out if you have any questions. And yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.